talk about how emotions can be trapped in our physical body today. My name is Dr. Pranita Rao. I am a former dentist, a published science author, an intuitive abstract artist, and an energy worker. I primarily work with sensitive and highly sensitive souls, and I use tools like Reiki, tree healing, angelic healing, abstract art to support sensitive people through coaching and but also through content creations and blog posts that I write. And if you're somebody who is interested in the mentioned topics, I welcome you here. Today we're going to touch base upon as to why emotions can be stored in our physical body, why it's very common, and how it can be solved. And we're going to talk about art as a tool to heal those trapped emotions. So let's start with why do we store emotional trauma, right? Um, Now, as human beings, we all face challenges all throughout our lives, right? And most of the times, we don't feel that we have the time to process each and every emotional trauma that we've been through, which is true. As people, as adults, we have things going on and we need to sort of deal with different problems of in our life, and it's not that we can stop all the time to process each and every emotion that can be stored in our physical body, but what we can do is recognize where we have severe emotional trauma stored in our physical body. And most of the times we can deny that, right? Especially if you're somebody who is sensitive or highly sensitive and feel as though um, you have had a very difficult upbringing, a difficult life, um, and you've just stored a lot of pain within you. Please give me a moment. I'm just going to adjust the lighting here. For some reason, it's dimmed down. Not sure why. Um, there've been too many technical issues in this live for some reason. I started off at 9 o'clock, and suddenly YouTube started flagging me, saying that there's some policy issues, so I had to restart. Anyway, uh, so if you're watching this and you just entered the live streaming, welcome. Um, we're going to talk about why it's common for sensitive people to store emotions in their physical bodies. Uh, it's very fairly common for sensitive and highly sensitive people to go through spiritual challenges or any challenge in any area of their lives that are really rare, that people don't understand, they don't get help for it, um, and that sort of ends up into situations where their body stores all that emotional trauma. And I'm saying that with experience. I identify as a highly sensitive person, and I have had a fair bit of trauma in my life, in different areas of my life. And throughout my life, I've had to deal with different physical health issues because there was an emotional trauma attached to it. As a healer, I am aware of things like past life traumas that we carry forward into our current lives. But let's talk about our current realities and how when we experience life day to day, there are situations where they can be really small situations, like you're having an argument with your neighbor, or you're having a argument with your friend, and you feel as though, oh my god, this is too much for me to handle, this is too much, it's intense. And then you leave the room, or you leave the relationship, or you leave the situation. But if you don't process that intense emotion of anger or fear, it goes somewhere, right? Most probably it will go somewhere in your body, and maybe at that point it does not develop into a physical ailment, But eventually, if we keep storing emotions of fear, anger, sadness, resentment in our body, it can lead to a physical health issue, right? If you are somebody who has read Louise Hay's philosophy of heal your life, she mentions how resentment can cause cancer and how stored resentment in one's body can lead to different types of cancer. In fact, she has been a cancer survivor herself, although she's not alive anymore. She passed away a few years ago, but then she talks about how she recovered from cancer with affirmations by dealing with her emotional trauma and resentment and anger that she had stored in her body. Um, it's not just her, there's so many people who have used different techniques, diets to release stored emotions because they could realize that there is a connection between emotions and our physical health. So every time we have like a stomach ache, right? Just a stomach ache. I'm not even talking about anything major. It's just say you've just had uh, constipation. Let's just take that. It's a very simple example. And if you are stressed for a very long time and you're constipated, there's a high chance that your constipation is related to your stress levels, right? Because stress is coming from a place of fear, and that's an emotion, and it's linked to your gut. And although stress is not trauma, but it's a believable example of what I'm trying to say. If you're somebody who's not able to sort of believe that emotional trauma can cause physical trauma as well. And how do I know that, you might ask? Right? Is this better? Trying to adjust the lighting. The light keeps getting dimmer. I don't like that. Alright. How do we believe that we have emotional trauma stored in our body? How does that look like? And how do I know this? Three important questions, right? How do you know that there's emotional trauma in you? Somewhere stuck to your physical body. When there is a constant pain somewhere in your body that does not go, regardless of any treatment that you give it, it's usually because there is some emotion that's attached to it that needs healing. And healing can happen in different ways, right? As a healer, I understand that emotional healing does not just require healing at a physical level, emotional level, but also at a inner child level and soul level, right? I've been trying to heal my shins. I used to be a runner, and I used to run on mountains. I used to do like a 10K every month. I used to really enjoy it. I love speed. I love the feeling of speed on my face. Yeah. But that led to severe shin injuries, and I haven't been able to run since 2021, 2019 actually. It's a painful reality when you love something so dearly, like exercise or anything, and you can't do it. It's quite traumatic. And I've been trying to heal my shin pains for a while now. And I realized that when I first started healing them, so I started with physical care for my shins, went for physiotherapy, didn't work out, went to an orthopedic, he said something, didn't follow it, didn't feel right. Then I went to an Ayurvedic person to see if it needs holistic healing, didn't help. Then I tried stretching and Pilates sort of healing, didn't help. Tried yoga, didn't help. Then I was like, this is not working out. This mustn't be a physical health problem after all, right? Must be something else. So then I started working with different healing modalities, emotional healing modalities. I did a lot of inner child work, work with affirmations, work with the mirror, work with positive thinking, positive mindset, right? Also work with coaches, so many coaches and healers for my shins. Tried pranic healing, didn't work. Tried Reiki for my shin pains, didn't work. Then I realized one day I was just talking to my angels. I was like, what's this? Why isn't it healing? And one of my angels told me it's a soul related problem. You need soul healing for your emotional challenges or your emotions that are trapped in your body. I found that very interesting. Never heard of it before. I thought to myself, wow, soul healing for my emotions trapped in my physical body. Who would have ever thought that? And why isn't this advertised more? Right? So then I started giving myself Reiki healing for my emotions, my physical challenges, but for the emotional trauma that has transpired into physical health problems at a soul level. And then things started to change gradually. I haven't been able to return back to running, but I do go for dancing twice a week, which has a lot of jumping involved. So I can safely say that it has helped. Similarly, you might have had emotional challenges throughout your life or some parts of your life or recently, even if it's a little bit, something that has deeply hurt you, something that has left a scar in your mind, in your heart, for your inner child, at an inner child level, made you feel as though um, I'm hurt. It hurts, not just in my heart, but also it has gone into different parts of my body. And maybe when that incident happened, you might have not realized the impact it had on you. You might have not felt a strong emotion. You might have not felt a impact. You know, when we close the door, there's a sound. Maybe that emotion didn't make a sound at that point. But a sound could be a physical health challenge, my friend. When our body is responding back to the closing of a door, by which I mean to our emotional trauma, it can feel like pain in one of our body parts. And what's challenging is to recognize that not all physical problems can heal through modern medicine. And I'm saying that with a lot of cautiousness because modern medicine can help a lot of health issues. And I'm a former dentist, so I have a strong scientific belief and I'm positive about it. But sometimes modern medicine doesn't help. And I've seen that for myself. Especially if you're somebody who identifies as a highly sensitive person or a sensitive person, believes in the concept of energy, concept of an energy body, that a physical body is a reflection of our energy body. And many a times when we store emotional trauma, it affects our energy body. They're both interlinked. And if we don't recognize that, it can just feel as though we're in an endless spiral of figuring out what can help us. So, recognizing emotional trauma in our physical body is important. And one of the ways to recognize it is to check if modern medicine is actually working after going through treatments. That is, not just assuming. And if it's not, there's no loss in considering a possibility that you might have emotional trauma stored in some of your body parts. If you're somebody who lives a fast paced life, I love talking about slow living, and one of the subject in slow living is living a fast paced life. It could be very challenging to identify if you have emotional trauma trapped in your physical body, if you're living very fast. And I'm not trying to diss fast living, by the way. I love speed, again, I'm mentioning it. But it is possible for people who live lives with chaotic schedules, unpredictable times, to miss out on the signals that their physical body gives them. Right? If your focus is somewhere, it is possible that your focus might not be on your emotional well being or your physical well being. Correct? So, what do we do? Even before we go to how do we correct this, if we have emotional trauma stored in our physical body, what do we do about it? The first step that I took when I realized that I have emotional trauma stored in my body was to slow down, stop running, stop fast walking as well. And I spent a lot of time, years actually, understanding my body, understanding how emotions work, receiving a lot of information about my body. Receiving information about what is it that I'm holding on to, that it's showing up in my shins and stopping me from running, something that I love to do. What is it? And it didn't take a day, 2 days, 3 days, but years for me to figure it out. But what I'm trying to say here is not to try to scare you. That could take years for you to figure out why you have emotional trauma stored in your body, but to say that sometimes your body just needs you to communicate with it. Sometimes it might feel as though it needs you to spend time with it. Listen to it. And then get back to what you love doing. Maybe in a different way. Like I started dancing, something I did not do before when I was running. I was not somebody who had confidence about dancing at all. I used to always feel polar opposite to somebody who dance. I was more the athlete sort of a person in my mind, at least. But today it's very different. So clearly, my body was wanting me to do something different. It wanted me to be more different, probably adapt a more feminine living, more expressive form of exercising, exercising that has more fun element in it, right? So if you have emotional trauma stored in your physical body, there are high chances that it's your body trying to ask you to take a different direction towards your goal. For example, if you are somebody who is also into exercise and you like a type of exercise, right? Like maybe you like weightlifting, but you have problems with your hands and you love upper body workouts, but your hand hurts, it's it's got very less strength, whatever. Maybe your body is trying to ask you to rest your hands, instead use your legs, swim, cycle, do another form of exercise that might open up a different side of your personality. And maybe that's what's needed for your life. It's not what you're getting from upper body workouts. And this is just a metaphor and an example. This could be anything in any area of your life. So it all boils down to understanding when your body is trying to tell you to stop, pause, rest, listen, respond differently, right? So, how do you support yourself when you have emotional trauma in your physical body? We've spoken about why it could happen, how it could show up. Let's speak a little bit about what could you do once it shows up, right? The first thing I would suggest as a healer or an intuitive or a coach is to be okay with pausing, with stopping, with redirecting. Be okay with it. If not happy, be okay with it. And once you are, the question I would ask, if I were you, which I have when I realized I have emotional trauma in my physical body, is what does my inner child need right now? Where do I feel like I need to develop my self esteem so that I can understand what's going on in my body? I would first work on my self esteem. And when we raise our self esteem, we often move from situations and move from situations that are difficult for us to recognize what is the exact healing we need. Because if you're in the same situation, same group of people, same schedules, activities, right? It's very difficult to understand what is it that you need, what is it that your inner body needs, your emotions need to heal, your soul needs to heal. But once you work on self esteem, you have more clarity about your next step. And once you do, you might come to a point, you would come to a point, it's not a possibility, you would come to a point where you would feel as though you're able to recognize something new. You're able to recognize a problem that you weren't before in some area of your life, if not directly related to your physical or emotional well being. Maybe your food is not, you're not making good choices with your food, or you're not making good choices with your relationships, you're not making good choices with your career. And here, by good, I don't mean to be critical, demeaning. I just mean to say that they're not complementary to your body or emotional well being. And when you see and notice that, you could then ask yourself, what type of healing can assist a change, a shift in the areas I'm noticing problems in? For example, if you have problems in your relationships, you are somebody who attracts people who always are angry with you, maybe you need to be more firm with yourself. And I know you might feel like this is not related to my problem. I have a back pain and you're telling me to work on my relationships with people who are angry. How does this make sense? It does. Because when you change your behavior towards the outer situations, often your inner child responds back by telling you what's wrong with the way you're treating yourself and the way it's impacting your emotional and physical body. Our biggest navigator, I feel, in life, one of the biggest, is our inner child. And it might be extremely helpful if we raised our self esteem so that we could notice what's the problem that we are constantly attracting that's causing emotional problems for us currently, that could open a communication line between you and your inner child, who could tell you why you're going through physical trauma as well. So, my friend, befriend your inner child, because he or she or they have the answers that you might not cognitively. So, we're coming to the live streaming for today. I'd like to close the streaming by sharing that if you're somebody who's going through a painful situation, a physical health issue, know that you're not alone. I was once in your place. I still have physical trauma here and there, and I'm working through my emotions for it. But there are solutions to cope with it. Art, abstract art, I practice abstract art, not been consistent with it in the past few weeks. I think I'm just going through a creative block, but it's a beautiful way to process emotions, trapped emotions, right? Reiki, again, beautiful energy healing that heals emotional trauma at a soul level. And I practice angelic Reiki, which means the source of Reiki is angels. It could be a very gentle, loving energy that heals our soul, like a warm hug. And I think that's very required if you've been through a difficult situation emotionally or physically. Because if you're feeling as though you're hurt, you're hurting, even at a soul level, and it's often very difficult to explain to people, right? And I also work with angels who help us with emotions. It takes a while to heal with angels, but they often give us the assurance humans don't, can't, and when humans refuse to. And angelic support is always available to us. Although I do suggest working with an expert to learn how to work with angels. Because when we don't know how to work with angels and we work with angels, we can invite dark forces or spirits unconsciously. I don't mean to scare you, but that's the truth. Right? I also coach sensitive and highly sensitive people who require human support to overcome difficult health issues, spiritual problems, soul related problems, emotional problems, and energetic problems. So, if you're somebody who needs support, feel free to check out my channel. There's a lot of helpful content, educational content, content that can bridge gaps between your understanding, learning, and perception of your problems and solutions as well. I also have 4 blogs, 4 active blogs, wherein I talk about tree healing, baby unicorns, art, high sensitivity, and slow living. If you're interested as a reader, as a learner, you can check out the links for my blogs in my bio. And if you wish to work with me as a coach, you can book an appointment using the link in the bio of this channel. Thank you for being here. If you're somebody who enjoys live streaming, please do keep coming. I am hosting a live streaming every day from 9 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. IST, except on weekends. So feel free to drop in, say hi, communicate, and help yourself with the information I have to share with you. I hope you have a lovely evening. Bye.